Brad Sherman of California.
I want to identify myself with the statements of the Chair, the Ranking Member. We mourn for the victims of terror. We condemn the terrorists and those whose lies incite and glorify terrorism. We condemn those who reward terrorism with payments to the families of terrorists and with glorification of their deeds. Arab leaders have much to answer for. As to Israel, in the days of the Roman Empire, those zealots who claimed to be the most pro-Israel did enormous harm. So now we see a few fringe Israeli leaders who want to disturb the status quo on the Temple Mount. They too are harmful. They provide a pretext for those who incite terrorism in Israel and those who seek delegitimization abroad. As to a two-state solution, I don't blame those who are pessimistic. I would doubt the sanity of anyone who bubbled with optimism about a two-state solution. But those who don't voice pessimism about a two-state solution, but those few Israeli leaders who oppose a two-state solution also do immeasurable harm. The definition of insanity, of course, is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I've been here 19 years. I feel like it was just yesterday. We condemn what the PA does, we threaten, and then we continue to subsidize. So I want to focus my questions on whether we should change the nature of or eliminate or reduce our aid to the PA. Now, you gentlemen all have incredible backgrounds. Got constituents who are considerably simpler. They simply say, why are we giving the PA money? And it might be helpful to our efforts in the Middle East if we stopped. It might be helpful if we continued. Hard to tell except for one thing. We'd reduce the deficit by $500 million if we stopped giving money to the PA. That's the only thing that's certain. The biggest reason that's given to give money to the PA is that if we don't give them money, there'll be more acts of terrorism. I'll point to the policies of Thomas Jefferson, our first president to involve us in the Middle East, who refused to pay tribute to terrorists in the state of Tripoli, and the short-term result was additional terrorism focused on American ships in the Mediterranean. I'm not sure that it's a good thing to give money to people who say we're going to kill innocent folks if you don't give us money. Those are not good people. One approach would be, and also I'll point out, only in world affairs is it considered insulting or cruel to give somebody $400 million. But since we gave them $500 million last year, it is cruel. Anyone who wants to be cruel to me by delivering $400 million, I will provide my address at the end of these hearings. And I'll deal with the Ethics Committee later. I want to explore with you, what about the idea of at least cutting the aid and delivering not cash, but delivering food and delivering textbooks already printed, and guess what they're going to say about the history of the Middle East? Mr. Abrams.
I think you're absolutely right about the cash question, the budget support question. The budget support suggests trust in how they're going to spend the money. I don't think anybody has that trust anymore, so we should move to services rather than cash. The cash started with Salam Fayyad, actually. He's gone, so maybe the cash.
I had a little bit more trust back then.
Right.
Mr. Murkowski, what if we cut the aid to $250 million? Would the world come to the end?
No, the world won't come to an end. Look, I agreed with what Elliot said about earmarking funds for education and tolerance. Let's just say that we have cut off the funds before. And that was my comment, that when we did that, I think 2 or 3 times about the UN, we lost Fayyad. That doesn't mean we should be paralyzed. But I can tell you that talking to a lot of the Israeli security professionals who deal with this, they come to me and said, I pray America does not cut off the PA because we work with them on a daily basis to fight terrorism. In the West Bank, of course. But it's hard for me to say, I know better than you do when they are closer to the situation than I am, whether it's the Chief of Staff Gantz, whether it's Diskin, the head of the Shin Bet. So I think we have to think in different ways. And can I just say to Ms. Eliana Ross-Layton's point about the UN Human Rights Council and the UN system, we know there's double standards. How many times has the UN Human Rights Council condemned the carnage in Syria, where over 250,000 people have been killed, versus how many times do they condemn Israel? And so the problem goes way beyond Abbas.
The gentleman's out of time. We need to go to Mr. Chris Smith of New Jersey.
Thank you very